The streets of Chicago never sleep. They only wait for their next betrayal. In the city where trust dies faster than loyalty, a new name starts to spread in the shadows: Marshall. No one knows where he came from, but everyone knows one thing: Tommy Egan doesn't move without a reason. When Marshall walks into the chaos of CBI, it's not to make friends. It's to bring the house down from the inside. Because sometimes, to win the war, you don't fight the enemy, you become them. Chicago has always been a battlefield dressed up as a city. Every block is a border, every handshake a gamble. After the fallouts, deals, and blood spills from the last season, Tommy Egan is standing tall, but surrounded by smoke. His empire is growing fast, too fast for comfort. The streets whisper his name with both fear and respect, but power like that doesn't come without enemies. And right now, his biggest problem isn't the cops. It's the people who once stood beside him, the brothers of CBI. Diamond wants peace, Jenard wants control. And both want Tommy out of their way. The war between Tommy and CBI has turned the city into a chessboard, and every move matters. But Tommy knows something most don't: wars aren't won by soldiers, they're won by spies. He needs someone inside the enemy's camp, someone who can walk through their doors without setting off alarms. That's when the name Marshall appears. A quiet, focused man with no attachments, no history that anyone can trace, and no reason to be trusted. Which, for Tommy, makes him the perfect man for the job. Marshall doesn't come to Chicago looking for money or fame. He comes with purpose, a plan that lives in the silence between every heartbeat. He doesn't speak much, doesn't smile, doesn't promise anything. That's what makes him dangerous. In a world full of loud men who love attention, Marshall is the kind who watches, listens, and learns. When he steps into the South Side, people look at him like he's a ghost walking into the wrong neighborhood. But Tommy's message has already reached him. You don't need to be known. You just need to be inside. The first few nights, Marshall keeps his head down, studying the flow. Who runs which block? Who collects? Who argues? Who bleeds? He notices the cracks in CBI's walls. Diamond is trying to hold things together, but Jenard's ambition burns like gasoline. They fight in the dark, hiding their tension from the streets. But to someone like Marshall, it's obvious. Every moment of silence between them is a sign of weakness. And weakness, in this game, is the first step toward destruction. Tommy doesn't trust anyone completely, but he trusts results. When Marshall sends him the first piece of intel, a shipment schedule, a contact name, a backdoor deal, Tommy knows he's found something special. The plan begins to move. Marshall will keep feeding him information, little by little, while slowly earning CBI's trust. The idea isn't to take them down right away, but to make them comfortable enough to never see it coming. That's how Tommy operates, not with noise, but with precision. Still, even in the early days, Marshall can feel the danger closing in. The people in CBI have street instincts sharper than knives. They can smell lies, and they can spot someone who doesn't belong. One wrong word, one misplaced look, and he'll be done. But Marshall plays it cool. He helps when no one asks him to. He keeps his head low. And most importantly, he never takes sides. He's a man without a flag, and in a city torn apart by colors. That makes him invisible. Chicago keeps breathing fire around him, sirens, shouts, gunshots echoing through the alleys, but Marshall walks through it all like a ghost. His mission is clear: earn trust, deliver intel, and make sure no one ever connects the dots back to Tommy. Every time he closes his eyes, he reminds himself why he's there. Not for loyalty, not for friendship, for the mission. And if the mission means burning everything down to the ground, then so be it. The wind bites colder when a stranger enters the game. Marshall's arrival isn't announced. It's felt. He doesn't show up with muscle or noise, just quiet confidence and a stare that doesn't blink. Word spreads fast. A new man is moving through the South Side, helping out on small jobs, cleaning up problems no one else wants to touch. Nobody knows who he is, but in a city where everyone wants to be seen, His silence makes him impossible to ignore. He starts where all hustlers start, at the bottom. Running errands, watching corners, learning who calls the shots. To most, he looks like another man trying to find his way in the chaos. But every move he makes is calculated. When someone's late, he remembers. When someone lies, he notes it. When someone hesitates before answering a question, he marks that too. He's building a mental map of the CBI's heart, who pumps the blood, and who poisons it. Diamond sees him first. Not as a threat, but as a tool. A man like Marshall can move quiet, and Diamond respects quiet. He gives him small work drop-offs, runs, the kind of jobs no one wants to talk about but everyone needs done. And Marshall does it without questions, without mistakes. That's how trust begins in the streets, not with promises, but with silence. Jenard, though, isn't so quick to trust. He watches Marshall from the corner of every room, from behind every smirk. To him, every new face is a potential problem. He doesn't like how calm Marshall is. He doesn't like how he doesn't talk. In a crew full of wolves, silence feels like a trap. But Jenard doesn't stop him. He's too focused on proving his own worth, too busy fighting shadows that look like his brother. That's how Marshall gets his opening. One night, during a deal that goes wrong, Marshall earns his first mark of respect. The drop turns into chaos, gunfire, confusion, everyone diving for cover. But Marshall doesn't run. He moves fast, clean, takes control when everyone else freezes. When the smoke clears, Diamond notices who stayed standing. That's when Marshall gets his first seat at the table. Not close enough to hear the real plans, but close enough to see who makes them. Behind the scenes, Tommy is watching every step. He never meets Marshall in person now. That would risk everything. They talk through coded calls and traceable messages, every word wrapped in caution. Tommy's voice always steady, always cold. Stay close. Don't act like me. Just listen. Marshall listens. And every detail he picks up, every shipment route, every contact name, every doubt inside CBI he feeds back to Tommy. The information becomes a weapon sharper than bullets. As the weeks pass, the city begins to shift. The CBI thinks they're healing, rebuilding, expanding their reach. But under the surface, Marshall is pulling strings, guiding small moments that push them closer to Tommy's plan. A deal gets delayed, a shipment rerouted, a misunderstanding planted at the right time. It's subtle, surgical. No one suspects the quiet man, but even the smartest plan can't hide forever. Rumors start to spread. Someone is feeding the streets too much detail, moves getting predicted, ambushes avoided. The crew begins to whisper. Marshall keeps his face blank, his answers short. When people ask where he's from, he says, nowhere. When they ask who sent him, he says, no one. That kind of mystery builds both fear and respect, the two currencies that keep a man alive in this world. Still, there's something about CBI that starts to shake him. For all their greed and violence, they have a kind of code: loyalty, brotherhood, history. Diamond looks out for his people. Jenard, beneath all his anger, just wants to lead. Marshall watches them argue, fight, and still show up the next day ready to die for each other. Somewhere inside him, that begins to stir something he thought was dead, a question about which side he's really on. Every night, he goes home to an empty apartment. No photos, no family, just silence. He looks in the mirror and sees a face that doesn't belong anywhere. The mission was supposed to be simple: get in, feed Tommy, get out. But now he's starting to understand that the streets don't just change men. They consume them. The longer he stays, the harder it becomes to tell whether he's wearing a mask, or if the mask has started to wear him. Marshall has been inside long enough to know how the streets breathe. Every corner has its rhythm. Every man has his weakness. He learns to move like smoke, there, but untouchable. The more the crew sees him, the less they question him. That's how infiltration works. Not through fear, not through force, through familiarity. The day they stop asking who you are, that's the day you've already won. His strategy isn't loud or flashy. It's built on patience, timing, and the art of making others talk. In this game, words are more dangerous than bullets. So Marshall listens. He listens to the whispers after a deal, the sighs after an argument, the things men say when they think no one's paying attention. He collects information like others collect money quietly, one secret at a time. And then he feeds it to Tommy. Not too much, not too fast, just enough to guide the storm without being the lightning. Tommy knows how to use information better than anyone. With every detail Marshall sends, he starts shaping the board. He lets rival crews believe CBI is weak, leaks fake routes, twists trust inside the organization. One by one, CBI's connections begin to crumble, and they don't even realize it's happening. They think the streets are turning against them, when in truth, the enemy is sitting right at their table, smiling at their jokes, driving their cars. But Marshall's work goes beyond spying. He starts to build trust, the kind that makes people talk freely. He saves a man during a shootout, helps cover up a deal gone bad, even takes a few punches meant for someone else. Every act, every scar, adds to the story he's selling: the loyal soldier, the quiet ear, the dependable hand. Diamond begins to trust him fully. He even says one night, "You remind me of myself before all this." Marshall nods, but inside, the words cut deep. Because that's the one thing he can't afford to be himself. Still, every strategy has its cost. The more he blends in, the more he starts to lose the line between the mission and the life. When he looks around, he doesn't just see targets anymore. He sees people. The crew he's supposed to betray becomes the only family he's had in years. They laugh, fight, eat, bleed together. For the first time, Marshall feels something close to belonging. But every time he starts to forget, Tommy's voice brings him back. Remember why you're there. You're not one of them. Tommy's plan depends on patience. He wants CBI to implode, not explode. Let them eat each other while he takes the pieces. That's why Marshall plans out carefully. He never accuses directly. He just asks questions, drops hints, leaves little cracks. He mentions things he shouldn't know, watches who reacts, who stays quiet. Within weeks, tension starts to rise. Jenard starts suspecting Diamond's keeping secrets. Diamond starts wondering who's leaking moves. And in the middle of all this, Marshall stands calm, pretending to be the only man holding the team together. One night, during a closed-door meeting, Jenard finally snaps. Voices rise, guns flash, and for a second, it feels like the whole empire might collapse. Marshall steps in, cool and steady, separating them, calming them down. The room falls silent, but in that silence, Marshall knows his strategy has worked. The more they fight, the more they depend on him to keep the peace. He's no longer the outsider. He's the bridge holding both sides. And that's the most dangerous position of all, because bridges always fall when the fire reaches both ends. The deeper he goes, the more he realizes this isn't just Tommy's war anymore. It's his. He's seen too much, learned too much. The streets start whispering about him not as a stranger, but as someone who might one day lead. That's when he starts to feel the weight of it. He's no longer invisible. Every word, every move, every breath matters. One mistake, and the mask shatters. At night, Marshall lies awake thinking about the endgame. Tommy's waiting for the right moment to strike, to crush CBI completely. But Marshall's not so sure anymore. He's seen the good in Diamond, the loyalty in the crew, the pain behind their choices. Maybe they're not the villains after all. Maybe everyone's just trying to survive in a city that doesn't forgive weakness. That thought scares him more than any gun ever could, because it means his mission isn't just about betrayal anymore. It's about choosing what kind of man he really is. The plan is working, but it's also changing him. The line between spy and soldier, between friend and foe, starts to fade like smoke in the cold Chicago air. And somewhere deep down, Marshall begins to wonder, when this is all over, whose side will he still be on? The city looks different at night when you've got secrets buried under every streetlight. Marshall walks those streets now like a man split in two. Every reflection in a shop window feels like it's staring back. asking the same question he's been running from. Who are you really? The mission that once felt clear has started to blur. He's not just playing a role anymore. He's living it. Every move, every conversation, every breath inside CBI has begun to leave a mark that no mission report can erase. He was supposed to be Tommy's eyes and ears, the ghost watching from the shadows. But the longer he stays, the more he starts to see the truth that no one ever tells. Everyone here is just trying to survive. Diamond isn't some ruthless kingpin. He's a man trying to keep his people alive in a world that doesn't offer second chances. Jenard isn't pure evil either. He's a man drowning in his own pride, scared to admit he's lost control. The lines between good and bad, loyalty and betrayal, all start to twist together until they make no sense. Marshall finds himself caught in the middle of two storms. On one side, Tommy's cold voice in his head, always sharp, always certain. Stick to the plan. We finish this. On the other, the crew he's grown close to. The people who bled beside him, shared their stories, trusted him when no one else did. They call him brother now. They laugh with him, break bread with him. It's supposed to be a lie, but somehow it's the most real thing he's felt in years. Every time he sends a message to Tommy, a part of him hesitates. His fingers hover over the phone, his mind racing. Each word he types feels heavier than the last. He's no longer just reporting. He's deciding who lives and who dies. That power begins to eat at him. He starts drinking more, sleeping less. Every sound at night makes him reach for the gun under his pillow. He's not afraid of getting caught. He's afraid of what he's becoming. One night, Diamond opens up to him. They sit in a quiet garage, the hum of the street fading behind them. Diamond talks about the price of leadership, about the friends he's buried, the peace he's been chasing, but never found. You ever feel like no matter what you do, you're still the villain? He asks. Marshall doesn't answer. He can't, because that question cuts too close. He's both the hero and the villain of his own story. The man who saves one side while destroying another. The next morning, Jenard corners him. His eyes sharp, voice low, full of suspicion. You too quiet, bro. Too clean. Nobody's that loyal. It's not a threat, it's a warning. The crew is starting to notice. The walls are closing in. Marshall knows that the more he tries to balance both sides, the closer he gets to falling. But walking away isn't an option. Tommy doesn't allow exits. Once you're in his world, you don't retire. You disappear. So Marshall does what he's always done. He adapts. He starts to play both roles harder. To Tommy, he's the loyal informant, efficient and cold. To CBI, he's the dependable soldier, loyal and steady. But inside, he's falling apart. Every smile feels fake. Every handshake feels like a sin. The city starts to feel smaller, the air heavier. He can't look at himself without seeing the faces of the men he's betraying. There's a moment, late one night, when he almost confesses everything. He's standing in front of Diamond's office door, one hand on the handle, heart pounding. He wants to tell the truth, to end the lies, to walk away before it's too late. But then his phone buzzes, Tommy's message lighting up the screen. It's time. Get ready. Just 3 words, but enough to drag him back into the darkness. Marshall steps away from the door and walks into the night, the weight of 2 worlds on his shoulders. The wind feels colder now, the streets quieter. He knows what's coming, the final move, the moment everything will burn. But deep inside, something's changed. For the first time, he's not sure whose side he's on. Maybe he's not on anyone's. Maybe he's just a man trying to find a way out of the fire he helped start. The mission has become personal. The lie's too heavy to carry. The mask he wears isn't just hiding his face anymore, it's becoming it. And as the city lights flicker against the dark sky, Marshall realizes the truth he's been avoiding all along. Once you walk into the game, there's no getting out clean.